So we're going to move on to our next awesome speaker. Actually, before I do that, a couple quick reminders. One is if you want to put any questions in the Q&A box, go ahead and type those in. If it's for a specific speaker, feel free to put their name first. If it's for any speaker, you don't mind who answers that, you can just put a question in there. If we can't get to the questions live, we will get the questions to the speakers. And in some cases, we're even trying to get them the questions during and then just texting you back that question in the Q&A box. So keep putting them in there if you have them. The other thing is if you don't have this in your calendar yet, then make note that on February 15th, so 2/15, right? 14 days from now, February 15th, 1 to 2:30 p.m. Eastern time, we are doing an advanced call after NET. We have almost all of the NET speakers from today and tomorrow who've already agreed to be on that call to do a follow-up to the NET. So make sure that whatever you're hearing from them today, try to implement those things over the next 2 weeks, because that gives you an even better way to come back with even better questions for fine tuning, or like, I tried it this way and this is what happened. Keep that in mind, put it in your calendar. 2:15, you can be back here with the NET speakers to do a Q&A follow-up as well. So you can get some implementation questions answered. Okay, now we're going on to our next speaker. It's Brandon Brown. So if you don't know Brandon well, let me give you some background on Brandon. First of all, his very first appointment as a Cutco rep was a no sale. So even though he rocks it out now, he didn't always have that rocking it out perfection that he is today. So if you are still growing, you can get there too. Now, he did have 4 more appointments that day. And so of course he still stayed committed. He describes himself as a newer rep as being shy, but still competitive and driven. All of us know him as very eager to learn, very curious, very deep thinker. I really love conversations with Brandon. Also, when he started on the events team, he was at about 100K in sales, and he started it because he wanted to network with top reps. He wanted to create an additional layer to his business, and he wanted to also be a leader and inspiring to other reps. And nowadays, I'm sure he's done that because he is at 6 million in career sales. He just eclipsed that last year. He's at about 5,900 customers, which means overall his average order is around $1,000, right? For his career, which is exciting. That includes even when he was a newer rep and not as good as he is today. 2021 highlights, he sold $750,000 in 2021, and that was with not having 7 out of 10 of his big events that were canceled last year. So he still did 750K even without those. He loves being a leader on his events team. He loves that he was part of that first $1 million year that LA County Fair had, which is really exciting, that he helps his team. In 2021, he helped his events team have an average order of $600, which is really exciting. His favorite things are building relationships, the memories, the delusional jokes that you get at the end of a fair day or at the end of an events day. You guys know how that works with each other. He thinks one of the reasons he was chosen to give this message is because he, similar to Curtis, is very good at the psychology of working with people. So that can translate into many different strengths in the business. Also, he says most people are baffled that go to see him work at the event are baffled at his ability to keep people at the booth as long as they do. Like after they said no or given so many objections, they stick around, he keeps them there, turns it into a sale. They're just like, I don't even know how you did that. And that's what he's going to talk about today, is how to not let people walk, how to handle that objection cycle. He loves playing basketball. He loves concerts. He loves getting massages. He loves Warzone with the boys. And if he could have been in any TV show or movie, he would have been Jon Snow from the Game of Thrones. We're going to let Brandon Brown take it away.
Awesome. Thank you, Amy. Excited to be here. Kareem, excellent talk. I've expressed this to you before and on stage, but growing up in the business, you were someone I always looked up to, and you took me under your wing when I was a baby rep, and I learned a lot from you. So thank you for all you do for this organization and you've done for me, and amazing message. I'm sure a lot of people here got a ton of nuggets from that. So no handout, no PowerPoint. You get my face for the next 20, 30 minutes or so. And I'm really excited to dive into handling objections. As a lot of you know, this is something I really pride myself on, and something that I knew a few years ago, this was just something I wanted to commit to. And if I did that my overall business would completely change. And looking back at the last few years and the growth I've had, I can say a lot of my success has been connected to making this a priority, handling objections at the highest level and becoming a master at that. So today's message is probably going to be different than what you might think as far as what a traditional objection message may be. Typical objection talks have a lot to do with like scripts, what to say in this scenario, that scenario. And I'm going to touch on that a little bit, but I want to take a different viewpoint. So instead of getting into the thick of all the words and phrases of what to say, I kind of want to zoom out and get some altitude. And I want you guys to really understand the landscape of this part of the interaction with customers. You know, a good analogy would be if you're in a maze and you're literally in the maze, it's going to take you a lot longer to get outside of the maze or get to the center, depending on how you look at it, versus seeing a picture of the maze zoomed out and knowing what direction you should go, right? If you're driving home and you've lived at your house for several years, and let's say there's traffic, you are going to be able to get to your house or your destination a lot quicker than someone who's just following, you know, Google Maps or whatever it might be, because they're just going off of what the technology says, you know, all the back roads. And so one of my outcomes today is to have you leave feeling like you know all the back roads. You are able to see the maze from a bird's eye view and be able to know how to navigate effectively with each customer that you're working with. You know, when you think average order and you think, hey, I want to increase my average order, and Kareem alluded to this a little bit in his message, is you think, you know, selling sets, selling packages, upserving. And even though all those things are true, I believe the reality is that the number one way to actually increase your average order is to be able to become really, really effective at handling customers' concerns. If you reflect back on 2021 and all the no sales you got behind the booth, who were those people? Who were the ones that walked? I would argue that 80 to 90+% of them were probably the flatware sets, the cookware orders, the signatures, the ultimates. Those are the orders that are going to help you sell way more for the day. And those are the ones that you really want to capture, right? You can take a 5K day, which is a decent day, but if you let two people walk and it's like a flatware and an ultimate, that literally could have doubled your CPO day. I know Vernon won't mind if I share this because I've been working with him mentoring him for several years now, and he's a really good friend of mine. But I think I'm the first person to ever do this. But I basically, because he's been working with me so long, I decided to commit to fly out to see him and do essentially a reverse field training where I watched him for a day and a half. And he's an excellent CSP. He sold over $450,000 last year, massive growth. So congrats to you, Vernon. And I watched a couple people that he didn't close. And what was a 4K day could have been a 7K day. And it's typically the flatwares. It's typically, you know, the signature sets. So here's my promise. My promise is if you listen fully to my message, you take notes, you listen to this recording when it goes out, I'm going to share with you the principles, the perspectives, and powerful questions that I use that allow me to navigate to the end zone and to be able to convert the customer to become a customer, a prospect to a customer, and to sell more Cutco. So that's my promise to you guys. I'm stoked to dive into this, and I truly believe this will be a huge needle mover for you guys for this year and years to come. So I'm going to teach you a new word. We're going to start off with a new word. The word is yegman, and you want to write this down, Y-E-G-G-M-A-N. And I'd be really surprised if anyone actually knew what that word meant or anything. So essentially a yegman is a safe cracker, someone who breaks into safes. And we've all seen movies where, you know, they're listening to the dial and they're breaking into a safe, right? Italian Job, one of my favorite movies. It's a combination to a lock, right? I want to reference this analogy because breaking into a safe in a lot of ways is like being able to handle the concerns, being able to listen to the objections that the customer is sharing verbally or non-verbally. And it's not just handling the objections, it's finding the right combination, right? It takes finesse. Otherwise, what happens? Well, with the safe, it locks, right? There's like a safety mechanism where if it senses someone's trying to break into it, what does it do? It latches down, can't get into it no matter what. At least the high-end safes. And just like customers, you guys have all experienced them. I will be the first to admit, I've experienced this a handful of times where you try the right combination and it's not effective, and you try again and it's not effective. And then what happens? You know what? I think I just need to think about it. It's like you walked up wanting to buy. What happened? And of course, through trial and error and reflecting and going through all those experiences, I've been able to identify how to do that as effectively and efficient as possible. So when I think of a yegman, there's 3 words that come to mind: stillness. It has to be very still. Listening, they have to listen to the clicks. By the way, I've never broken into a safe, so I'm just going off the movies. Could be completely off here, but you guys get the analogy. And the third is touch, right? It's all about the touch. Keep thinking of Italian Job. I might watch that later this week. All right, and what is touch? Touch is skill set, repetition. All right, the woman in Italian Job, for those that have seen it, like she had to practice on the safe several times before she broke into it, like a replica. So, and I want to highlight stillness because I know a lot of you can relate to this. Stillness means there can't be any inner chatter while you're having a conversation with the customer. We've all been there. And sometimes I do it too, even today. But what's the inner chatter? What am I going to say next? You need to be so good at handling objections, so confident in handling objections, so comfortable in understanding the psychology of what's supposed to happen and where the customer's at, that you're not thinking, this is the script that needs to come out of my mouth. It's, what does the customer need to hear right now? What's real for them? You start asking yourself that question, you'll be blown away by what comes through. It'll be way more pure, way more authentic, way more tangible, and the customer will resonate with what you're saying, which is at the end of the day what you want, not just some script that you spew out every time the customer says, I need to talk to my husband. So when we think of objections, they're sourced from 2 areas: logic and emotion. Some people are more logical based, some people are more emotional based. There's definitely a blend of both. But what's a logical objection? Financial, rules. I can't make a decision without my husband. Usage. I don't know if I'm going to use all the knives. Right? What are emotional based objections? Trust, comfort level. Do they trust you? Have you created a safe space to have dialogue with the customer? Maybe lack of excitement. Did you cut corners and not cut the penny? Did you cut corners and not cut the leather? Another emotional based objection is, how's my spouse going to react? I'm scared. I'm nervous. I'm worried. It's important to identify how these fall into each of these categories because it helps you relate to the customer on a deeper level. Your outcome needs to be to create a powerful environment with customers where they can experience as little friction as possible. That's your job. Create a powerful environment with the customer where they experience as little friction as possible. Now, how do you do that? Well, for one, I've been saying this for years, and something I pride myself on: ask powerful questions. What are those questions? I'll share with you some of them, but more importantly than just giving you some questions, right? I don't want to give you the back of the math book in 6th grade that gives you all the answers, all the odd answers, and then you get 50%, and then you have to figure out how to get the other ones from your friend, right? So instead of doing that, I want you to actually understand how to come up with the questions, because that's the source, right? Then you don't need me to teach you, right? You're actually learning how to do it yourself. So how do you do that, right? Create that powerful environment where customers experience as little friction as possible. So ask powerful questions. Number 2, listen intently. And really what I mean by that is don't just listen to their words, but what they mean by what they say. They could be saying one thing and meaning something completely different. And it's your responsibility to be able to decipher between that. Customers a lot of times don't know how to process things in an efficient manner. And so it's your job to help them think through the questions you ask and by listening. Example of this: customer doesn't know how to process. You know what, Josh, I just need to think about it. Well, what's beyond that? Do you go into the objection of, well, you're going to go into this black hole and I really don't want you to do that. So what if I do something really crazy and give you a discount? But that's not the objection, the thinking about it. It's I need to talk to my spouse. It's, I just don't know if this is going to fit in the budget, or I really wasn't planning on buying knives, right? I need some time to let this process, or do I need this? My knives are kind of decent. I got some Wusthof that I've had for 5 years. Or is it usage, right? Those are the real objections beneath the surface. And then the third thing to create this powerful environment is to watch their body language. And I know you've heard that from me and other speakers before, but I'm telling you right now, their body language will tell you all you need to know. That's most of nonverbal communication anyways, is their body language. So get really good at reading body language. What are examples of this? If a customer looks at their watch once, I'm thinking in my head, I'm probably on a short timeline and I need to be really efficient. If the kid pulls on mom's shirt once, I know that I might be running out of time and I need to be very careful and efficient with how I navigate the rest of this conversation, because I want to close it before it gets out of hand. All right, so those are just a few examples just to make this a little bit more tangible for you. Write this down. Your customer will give you all the information you need to navigate the conversation in the right direction. Your customer will give you all the information you need to navigate the conversation in the right direction. Believe that, have confidence in that, because it's true. Don't have an agenda of what to do, where to go, and how to do it, but just be there fully present to what the customer is sharing with you at every single moment throughout the interaction. So here's a little nugget and a great question for you to ask. And I touched on this briefly earlier on my message here. But here's a question you should ask while you're interacting with the customer. If I was feeling the way they were right now, what would I need to hear to move past the concern? And this is the second part that's really important, and feel called and encouraged to take action. So it's not just about moving past the concern, but having the encouragement and feeling inspired to take action. If I was feeling the way they were right now, what would I need to hear to move past the concern and feel called and encouraged to take action? Now, of course, first, you have to be able to connect with the customer to know how they're feeling at that moment in time. Once you do that, then you can ask that question. So what needs to be present? Is it affordability? Is it use? Is it desire? Is it excitement? But a lot of times when you ask that question, what will come through is the answer, is the solution to that customer, to that interaction. Are you solving the surface of the reason or the root issue? If you're trying to solve the surface, what you will experience and probably have is a waste of time, loss of energy, missed opportunity, and the customer getting comfortable to saying no to you. Because you're trying to handle the surface, which isn't actually the concern to begin with. I've had the privilege of working with top CSPs, mentoring high-performing CSPs, and there's been a constant theme that I've noticed in my observation. They may say the right thing. You may hear a line from Bert or Josh or Kareem or Curtis or Matt or Alicia. I know I might be missing a few speakers. You may hear a line and then you may implement it. But saying the right thing at not the right time won't have the same impact. I've seen CSPs ask the right question, but they're asking it too early or too late. And when you do that, it loses its potency. This is another great thing for you to write down. The sequence of what you say, how you say it, when you say it, and why matters. The sequence of what you say, how you say it, and when you say and why you say it matters. For example, when do you say something? Well, you can cut the shears at the beginning of the demo like we were taught initially, but if you've cut the leather and done a good job on the leather cutting test and listened to my recording or video from 5 years ago when I taught you guys how to cut leather, you don't need to do anything more. There's already immense value. You have their full attention. So then what's important is for you to save the penny, right? I know Kareem and probably a few others practice this towards the end. Give them that extra wow factor right before you're about to close. So it's important to have all those things present at once. You can't just ask the question or say that one thing and expect it to work. The sequence matters. Now, you might be thinking, Brandon, this is awesome. I'm loving this stuff. It's all conceptual. Where's like, you know, the meat and potatoes. And the thing is the conceptual part is absolutely critical. You have to like mentally understand, psychologically understand how to go and how to navigate through this. It's kind of like if you guys watch the TV show Cobra Kai, it's like, am I going to keep cleaning the cars, wax on, wax off? When are you going to teach me to fight? There's a difference. And yes, the first half, 3/4 of my message has been very wax on, wax off. But I promise you, you do that, you integrate this enough, everything else kind of falls into place. So let me give you a little bit of fighting technique here. And I'm not, there's hundreds of objections, right? Or not hundreds, but there's a lot of objections. I don't have time to go through all of them. So I'm going to just give you one example, and hopefully you'll be able to connect a lot of things I've been sharing with you up to this point with this example. So let's talk about one of the most common objections we get. I want to think about it. A lot of you probably hate that objection. Can I get a card? I want to think about it. And you tighten up, you close your fist, you lean over the table, like your body language says it all. So I want to think about it. One of the first things I will say is, hey, Bert, it's totally okay that you want to think about it. Why do I do that? Lower the barrier. I want them to feel comfortable to express how they feel. And the last thing they're expecting a salesperson to say is, yeah, it's totally okay to think about it. And I like pause. They're like, wait, really? I can think about it? Follow-up question. Just out of curiosity, what's the biggest thing you want to think about? Right? We're getting below the surface. So what's the other objection we probably don't like handling the most? Oh, I need to talk to my husband and he's not here. Absolutely. I totally understand, right? You want to connect and resonate with the customer. Does he cook, by the way? Oh, no, he doesn't even know where the kitchen is. I do all the cooking. Okay, cool. Is he kind of like in charge of the finances? Is that why you wanted to talk to him? Yeah. I would want to make sure he would be okay with like the financial portion of it. I understand. And you notice, like, I'm just asking very direct questions. I want to get to the root of the issue. No need to beat around the bush. So when the customer says that, that makes sense. Now, I'm sure, Mrs. Jones, you have a general sense of the budget, even if he's in charge of the finances. Do you think if you really wanted to, you guys could fit $350 into the budget? Like if you really wanted to? What do you think their answer is going to be? Most likely, yes. And I want to also explain how I'm saying this. First, I'm empowering the wife to say, hey, I'm sure you have a general sense of the budget. All right. Empower. Or if I'm talking to the husband and the husband's like, hey, I need to talk to my wife. She does all the cooking. I'm like, I get that she does the cooking, but you also eat with her. So you know the foods you guys are cutting either way. I say it a little more gentle, but again, I'm empowering him to still know like, hey, these are the foods we cut. I'm the knife expert. We make a good team. And then the second part of that question, right, which is if you really wanted to, it's not, can it fit in the budget? But I mean, could you? Like it's $350. You spend that at Costco. Come on. I don't say that, right? But it's kind of like slightly of the tonality when I'm asking that question. Next question. So we're going back to husband not there. Husband's in charge of the finances. Wife does all the cooking. They say yes, they can fit it into the budget. Knowing how much you cook, I'm sure he appreciates your cooking. What do you think he would say if he was here? All right, knowing how much you cook, I'm sure he appreciates your cooking. What do you think he would say? You guys have heard me say another variation of that of how long have you guys been together? 20 years? Nice. So safe to say you know him pretty well? Yes. Well, I'm sure he trusts your judgment. And obviously, you do all the cooking, and I'm sure he really appreciates your cooking. What do you think he would say hypothetically if he heard and saw everything that you just saw? He'd probably say, just do whatever I want. Okay. Now remind me again, what kind of knives do you have at home? Weren't you telling me like yours don't cut? I'm bringing in more pain after I've just solved a lot of concerns. if it's a past customer, let's say, they already own Cutco, a variation of that last question can be, hey, considering that you've had Cutco for 10 years and you've literally only sharpened them once, I know I don't need to sell you on the value of Cutco. I mean, what do you think your husband would say if he was here, knowing how great of an experience you've had all these years and how much more enjoyable cooking has been? So you notice I'm not just asking the simple condensed version of the question. I'm adding in all this extra impact and value on the front end or the back end of the question. That's how you move the customer in the direction you want. And then after you've done that, you've basically solved a lot of the concerns. So it sounds like, Deanna, you can fit it in the budget. The husband would say yes if he was here. Sounds like you'd use all the pieces. And at the end of the day, it's super rare to even see Cutco at an event like this. So it seems like it kind of just makes sense. And again, read the customer. Sometimes that's all you need to do, and you've literally walked your way to the end zone. Go Rams. And sometimes you need a little extra push, right? What's the extra push? So here's my question for you. If I went out of my way and did something extra special, so you felt really good about making the decision right now, knowing that you'd probably get it eventually, it fits in the budget, your husband would probably be okay with it, and how much you've loved your knives all these years so far, would you be open to the idea of doing it right now? If I did like an extra crazy turbo deal for you? And they're going to say yes every time. At least that's been my experience. And on 95% of those, if you follow the steps the whole way, they convert. All right, so that's the walkthrough of like one example of an objection. Now, one thing I want you to pick up on, if you haven't already, is, are you telling the customers what they should be thinking? Like, this is worth it. You would use them. I'm sure your husband would be okay with it. Are you telling them what they should be thinking? Or are you asking them questions that pull out an answer that would be the same answer that you would give them, but it has 10 times more effectiveness when you ask the question and they answer because they're taking ownership of what they're saying versus you telling them what they should be thinking or what they should do. And the only reason why I'm able to come up with those questions is because I have, I'm clear on the desired outcome. I know where the customer's at. I know what needs to be created to move them from where they are to where they want to go. And I'm asking the question of, if I was in the customer's shoes, how would I feel and what would I need to hear to feel confident in overcoming that objection or that concern and feeling called to take action now? So, right, and a quick wrap up here. The key is to handle objections like a pro. And the way to do that is be fluid, right? Least resistance, stillness, listening, and then the touch, just like a safe cracker. So my challenge to you is, if you committed to being the best yegman in your division or region, what would you be capable of? What would be possible if you mastered the identity of being a yegman and being able to handle every concern, every objection, every time a customer walks up? Thank you guys for listening intently and taking notes. One of the best ways you could express gratitude to me is to be able to implement, execute, and share the hot news. Last thing in the last 30 seconds here, For those of you that know Deanna Scortino, it's her birthday today. So if everyone wants to just blow up her phone and wish her a happy birthday, I'm sure she would really appreciate it. All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Brandon. I have a question for you too. And happy birthday, Deanna. You share a birthday, by the way, with the Chandler twins, Eric and Gabe Chandler. It's their birthday as well. So if you guys know them, you might as well send them some birthday love as well while you're doing it for Deanna. They're all awesome human beings. Okay. So, and Kareem, by the way, I think you could probably answer these questions too, if you have an answer you want to share. It sounds like Brandon, I'm going to sort of take the questions I'm getting and try to reduce it down to something I think would make sense for both, multiple questions. Sounds like people are dealing with sometimes people coming to the booth and not even really giving you much time, just in the first couple of minutes asking if they can have your business card. Also sounds like some people are struggling with, there's two people there, a couple, but one of them sort of engaged and the other one's kind of not engaged at all. Maybe there's even a language barrier in some cases with one of them. So I guess, and I know you're teaching us the psychology of it, but if you have any, like, here are some things that I use to either get someone engaged who isn't, or even like in those quick things of like, they're just asking right now, can I have your business card? They're not even really having a conversation with you yet. How do you handle any of that stuff?
Absolutely. Great questions. So with the whole business card, if someone's like walking by, hey, can I get a business card? One of the first questions I asked is, hey, awesome. Is this for sales or service? So really quick, I know which direction to go, how to navigate. Obviously, if it's service, that's easy to kind of get the lead. You can just ask a few follow-up questions. If it's like, oh, sales, awesome. Are you familiar with Cutco? Do you have a set? Like, what's the situation? And typically how they respond, you then know like where to navigate. Hey, and it's also how you show up. So you have to take control of the conversation right then and there. You have to match their energy, match their tempo, almost go up a little higher. So you're actually the one influencing the interaction, even if it's in 20 seconds. It's like, actually, before you leave, let me show you this one quick thing. And you like turn, so they actually kind of have to follow you. You see the people at like kiosks and the ones that are selling face lotion stuff. It's like, here, try this. And then they just walk, right? And then the person kind of like follows. So you do that same type of sales technique when someone's kind of in a rush to get them back into the booth and get them anchored. The other question was if the husband's not engaged. So if the husband's not engaged, that typically means he doesn't cook. He care less about the knives. So I will literally call the husband out with love and care and say, hey, like, it sounds like, hey, Mr. Jones, I can tell you could probably care less about these knives. It sounds like she's like the queen of the kitchen. Is that right? Yes. Awesome. Is she a pretty good cook? Great. Well, I know you could probably care less and like hear what's going on, but obviously this is something that's really important to her. If we found something that she really liked, I got her a really good deal and it fit in the budget, is that something you would support her in making a decision on? Yes. Great. Buy-in, just in case he does leave. It's like, oh, and also, I know you don't cook a lot, but try this really quick. Again, getting him engaged. So you're calling him out so he feels understood. And through being understood, you're able to actually gain more traction. So he'll be more present. And he also feels a little called out. So he's like, well, I don't want to look like a dummy here. So I'm going to pay a little bit more attention because of how the sales rep, me, interacted with him. So I think I answered most of those questions that you just asked.
Yeah, I think so too. I don't, Kareem, is there anything that you would add to that?
Yeah, it's kind of along those same lines, like in the first scenario of just having a quick amount of time, also asking the same kind of thing, like creating that urgency, everything Brandon said, and then also just creating that urgency of, hey, we're at the show right now. You're going to get some great deals here. You're here, I'm here. It seems like you're in a hurry. Just so I know, if I was able to offer you a smoking deal right now that you couldn't get otherwise, is that something you might be open to taking a quick look at right now? Right, and try to anchor them that way too.
Awesome. Thank you. And that